it doesn't take very much money, really, or interest by the public to jump in and completely overnight drain the whole system. Where we have, a 5% interest, 5% allocation, that's a tenfold increase in demand, and overnight everything's gone. So, I mean, the only way to really succeed in any investing is to be proactive. And I find it interesting that the most well-funded and well-informed traders in the world, the central banks, they're loading up. So we have positive real yields. We have a strong dollar. We have outflows out of the ETFs. We have tepid demand in the retail market, and yet gold's at all-time highs. I thought that logic would say that it should be going the other direction. So add in a voracious demand by the American public with all the money that they have tied up in other asset classes. When they realize, oh my God, what am I doing? I need to have some metals. There'll be none to be found. That's how fast it will happen. Even though the market's flush with product right now, I've said forever it will be defined by the inability to source product, because if things were to get that crazy, you have two mints in the United States, in North America, Canada and the US, handful of refineries. The rest of them, South Africa, Australia, Austria, the United Kingdom, and all of the refineries around the world that are not in North America, that's it. There is no bull market like a gold bull market, Danny, because every other one speaks to your desire to make money. That's greed, versus your desire to protect, which is fear. Greed and fear are the motivators, and people watching the price of metal go higher or the world gets scarier only tightens the grip on it. They don't want to sell it, go back into dollars, into the system. That's why there is no bull market.
Real world asset wealth: how to protect your wealth from the upcoming financial impact. Download this brand new report for free and get instant access to our resources. Click the button below the video now.
Like a metals bull market, meaning the secondary market dries up. And when the new stuff is gone and these other countries become protectionist and start to stockpile and keep their own metal and give it to their own countrymen, or hold it themselves for the government because of change and instability, just like that, it's gone. And so I think the whole point is to be proactive the way that the central bankers are. And that's why they've been gobbling it up for the last several years and repatriating it, removing any and all counterparty risk. And that's a beautiful thing. Tuba Gold Eagles right here. That's $50,000, that little palm of my hand.
Right.
The only counterparty risk is someone trying to take it from me and all my guns. But the lack of counterparty risk to the system is profound in this environment. So yeah, I think the big money, who is not only the most sophisticated and wealthy, they're the most well-informed. And they've been buying it as the American public has been selling and going into the shiny objects like NVIDIA and Bitcoin and Apple. And I don't blame them. The returns have been great, but the biggest money in the world is saying, well, you guys do that and we'll do this. And that's what they're doing. It's a system that will be defined by commodities, transparency, and lack of counterparty risk, rather than by opaque debt instruments, by an insolvent government, or stocks that are held that can be taken from you. If your listeners haven't read The Great Taking by David Rogers Webb, I suggest they do. Go to YouTube and watch the hour-long video and try to keep your dinner down after that. So again, counterparty risk is something that I think will take on a very ugly meaning, much more ugly than it already is right now in the future, because of how systemically tied together everything is.
Yeah. So, Andy, what we've been doing the last several episodes is I've been asking each and every one of my guests. I mean, it's interesting you brought up The Great Taking, but I've been asking each and every one of my guests to provide a book or a list of books that they'd recommend the audience dig into to educate themselves. So I'm going to pose the same question to you. What are some what is a book or a list of books that you would recommend the audience look into?
Well, for sure, The Great Taking, The Creature from Jekyll Island. If you want to understand just looking at my bookshelf right now, The Creature from Jekyll Island, I have 2 copies of it right there.
Nice. Edward Griffin. I interviewed him a while back.
Yep. I mean, that's a big one. I personally have gotten more out of, you'll laugh, but maybe more, I've gleaned more from The Art of War than just about anything I've ever read. It was written in the 5th century by a Chinese military strategist named Sun Tzu, but it's mandatory reading at West Point, at CIA. Bill Belichick reads it for formulating game strategy. It's taught at most major business schools in the world on corporate hierarchy. It's taught in most major law schools on formulating arguments. The whole idea is to beat your opponent without throwing a punch. It's misdirection, and misdirection is everywhere when you see it. If you don't look for it, you don't see it. Even in any game you've ever played. Think football. They have plays called misdirection. The whole line goes this way. The tight end slips out that way. He's wide open, and everyone's over there. Think about baseball, the squeeze bunt. Think about chess. You flank your rook up this way, and the queen goes that way. Everything you do in games or in anything, whether it's an adversary or an opponent, you misdirect. And the no-look pass in basketball. That is misdirection. I've gotten so much out of that book, I can't even tell you. But I guess the two that come to mind in terms of economics for me would be the Great Taking, because of its broader implications, and The Creature from Jekyll Island, because you'll understand what the Federal Reserve is, which is neither federal nor a reserve, and how scary it really actually is. Well, I don't know who your next guest is, but I mean, that's a good one. I don't know. I guess I'd like to know what they think, where they think we are in the cycle. Where are we going? What do they think of the BRICS? What do they think about what's happening inside this country? Is it planned? I mean, I've been one of the few to have the courage or the stupidity to say this is all planned. Either that or it's completely stupid, the things that we are doing. So stupid that it's ridiculous. I guess that would be the big question. The speech that I gave in Boca at Rick Rule's conference, I wanted to call it, "Is It's Too Stupid to Be Stupid?" But instead I called it, "Is It Too Foolish to Not Be Planned?" And when you look around and you see weaponizing the dollar in a very hypocritical manner,